All right, thank you so much for that candid and very interesting perspective there, to see the people. As you mentioned, it's a little bit of relief right now. And the planning for the funeral, we know, has been in the works for decades, with the Queen herself having played an active role in deciding the arrangement. So joining me now, and if you've been watching for the past hour, Dean Nick Allard has been with us, the founding dean of Jacksonville University's College of Law, also a graduate from Princeton, Oxford, and Yale Law School. So thank you so much for sticking with us. You've given us some great things to think about. You've been in the Queen's presence, and as we watched the ceremony, you said it was simple, it was precise, despite all the pomp and circumstances. So what were the things that really stood out to you?
Well, the seriousness and the simplicity and the elegance of the service, very important, and signaling a transition. So this has been a long mourning process, and people know that sometimes help you get ready for what lies ahead. And so we're just about, not quite, but just about ready to move on, and Britain has a lot to look forward to do. By the way, that pub is right next to what used to be Scotland Yard.
Okay,
and now it's the Metropolitan Police.
Okay, so they had a...
People want to fixate on it.
Right, and they had a great location to be in this morning to actually feel that energy. Let's talk about some of the moments in the funeral that were deeply personal. She clearly had a hand in planning this many years ago. For example, there was a hymn that was sung at her wedding to Prince Philip, and he died last year, we know, after their marriage of 70 years. So there were definitely moments that were picked by her. There was music that was composed specifically for the ceremony.
She picked every word, crossed every T, dotted every I. And the symbolism of that service is noteworthy. Not only the fact that it was heavily represented by women clerics and other women leaders like the Prime Minister Liz Truss, but also the positions that they held. For example, the opening speaker was a woman of color who is the head of the Commonwealth. She's the Secretary General of the Commonwealth. And that was very significant because there's great questions about the future of the Commonwealth after her.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because going from an empire to a Commonwealth, and now who knows what's going to happen now that we've seen some countries actually pull out. So where does this take us now?
This is part of the sweep of history. And so the British Empire was waning already when Queen Victoria died in 1901. The British may hate to hear that, but that's the case. And then it broke up, and post-World War II, there was the Commonwealth was formed, the Commonwealth countries, but now she really was the glue for that, holding that together. The Commonwealth countries are independent nations, but their leader is the monarch. Now, recently, we've seen some countries falling out. Barbados is one, for example, that recently did, and Jamaica has indicated that it wants to go its own way. And so there's an open question of how much of the Commonwealth holds together in her absence.
Yeah, because it definitely has been very clear when it comes to the Queen that she was a uniter. She brought people together. She made herself available to people, and that was important. So it'll be interesting to see where the direction points next. That was one of the things that was clear in many of the speeches, the sacrifice that she made at 25 years old, having no idea what her life would hold. And as the longest serving monarch, I think it is very notable that her life was sacrificed.
Well, I hope this isn't any lack of respect, but she really was sort of in America, to compare with Americans, the Lou Gehrig of monarchs. She outlasted Queen Victoria, served for 63 years as the monarch, and she is probably the longest serving monarch in history, not just of England, so it's quite remarkable. And through that time, the British people saw tremendous struggles, ups and downs, and she held constant throughout. And her example of service and just simply existing and surviving can remind not only the British people, but people everywhere in the United States, around the world, that we can endure and survive. And when we come together, when we focus on what we have in common, more than what separates us, there's nothing we can't accomplish. And so the British people and in America and around the world have enormous challenges. It's a fitting legacy if, observing and celebrating her life, it reminds us of what all humanity can accomplish together.
I love that you will end with that, you know, especially as we look at the leaders who came from all over the world, 500 leaders, you know, some that didn't have to be here. And if you look at the circumstances in their countries, maybe it did make sense. You know, you look at Ukraine's first lady who made sure that she was there despite everything going on in Ukraine. So I think hopefully that uniting will carry over just a little bit longer since we've lost the Queen. Thank you so much for being with us. We're going to have you stick around as long as you can because we know that we have some other things that will take place later this morning.